I'm talking to Bob Collymore, who is the CEO of Safaricom, who arrived in the company in November 2010. Bob, when you first arrived in the company, what were the things that you think the company was doing wrong that you felt required urgently addressing?
Well, I wouldn't say the company was doing wrong. I'd say that what needed to be done was we needed to get a sharper focus on network quality, improving network quality, simply because of the volume of traffic that has started going through the network in the past 6 months or so, and customer services.
Yeah.
You know, it was it's almost impossible to get through to our customer services number. And that was what customers were saying.
You were saying earlier that you have something like 500,000 calls and only only 100,000 capacity for responding to those calls.
That's right. And in the weeks before Christmas, you know, that went up to 800,000 calls per day, and that's out of a customer base of about 16, 17 million customers. That's a high number.
So it was rather random whether you got through or not at that point.
Very much so.
Yes. So what have you put in place that's going to address that particular issue?
Well, we actually looked at the top 5 reasons for calling in. And most of them actually has to do with not providing sufficient information in the first place, or providing confusing information. And mobile networks are, across the world, are guilty of trying to confuse customers with their tariffs. And you know, when you might be even semi-literate, you shouldn't have to ask the customer to understand your tariff, to try to compute, you know, at this time of the day, if I spend this much on a top-up card, this is how much I'll be paying.
How many different tariffs do you think you have?
Oh gosh, well, we simplified the voice tariff now.
Yeah.
So we now have...
Just in voice?
In voice now we only have 1 prepay and 1 postpay. So if you're on prepay, it's 3 shillings on net and 4 shillings off net. And if you're on postpay, it's 3 shillings flat.
So you moved from how many tariffs before?
Oh gosh, I mean,
order of magnitude?
Order of magnitude, we must have had maybe 10, 15 different tariffs.
Right, right. Okay.
Depending on how much you want to spend at any one time, and whether you have telescopic pricing, whether you have dynamic discounting by time of the day. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Impossible to understand at some level.
I didn't understand it, and I keep saying to my team, if I don't understand it, then it's not going out.
How's the customer? Yes. Yeah. So looping back to the network issue, the congestion on the network, you've grown, the volume of calling on the network has grown 100% in 12 months, you were saying.
Yes.
What are you doing to put in new capacity that will change that problem?
Well, the first thing we do is we prioritize. So, you know, if you look at Nairobi, Nairobi is where the bulk of your traffic is going to be, especially on Friday afternoons. So you prioritize the real high volume. The other problem in Nairobi, of course, is more difficult, because we've run out of space in which to build base stations. And so now we're putting a lot more in-building coverage. And once you put in-building coverage, then it frees up the space outside.
So using the equivalent of femtocells or those kind of devices. Yeah. And is that with the customer or is that within the network?
It's within the network.
Okay. So you're not like Vodafone, you're not selling a femtocell product to customers?
No, not really. You know, I think it is our obligation to provide the cover.
Yes, not to expect the customers to pay for the network.
You can't then expect the customers to pay for your network as well. They've already paid for the price. So.
Yeah. So in terms of innovation, one of the things you're doing is at the moment you're testing an LTE network. When can we expect to see that coming online?
The determining factor, the critical factor is when will the customer equipment be ready. And we think that that's probably about 12 to 18 months before you have a commercially available LTE terminal.
Okay. And what impact do you think that LTE product will have on the market?
It's about speed and capacity.
Yeah.
And you know, we can then start to really get customers to download content. At the moment, you know, downloading content is really kind of painful. I was in the UK and I've forgotten what it's like to have proper speed. You know, we have a home in the UK, and you know, you hit Google and it goes bang.
Yes.
Whereas here, you hit Google and it goes.
You go and make the tea.
Yeah. So you know, it is about introducing a whole new set of content for Kenyan users.
And do you have the same congestion on your data network as you do on the voice network?
No, we don't. It's actually a very empty network, and you know, maybe 25% capacity is being used. So we have a lot of space to grow that volume and to bring the price down. The price has to come down. Yeah. And has to come down quickly. You know, we don't have a lot of time to get there.
And how much, in just broad terms, do you think that price for internet or data will come
I think
down?
it's difficult to tell.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why it shouldn't be any higher than, why it should be any higher than European costs.
Right.
You know, fortunately, we we haven't fallen for into the same trap as the European counterparts, because they've all gone unlimited, and then discovered unlimited actually doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So we haven't fallen into that trap, and hopefully we'll avoid it.
Yeah. Okay. And so, are you looking at doing household internet? In other words, offering things like triple play to domestic customers and so on and so forth?
I don't know whether we can get to triple play, but I think certainly, why should it be different? Why should the customer look for a different solution provider if they're at home, if they're out? You've got the same handset, or you're accessing the same data. So inevitably, I think we will be looking at providing more internet connection. We do so now, because we already have quite a wide WiMAX network, which provides internet into the home.
Yeah.
But we just have to find.
Why did you choose to go with WiMAX when you've already got this network that is 5% full only?
We didn't have the 5% full only network at the time.
At that point.
But we felt that people needed an unlimited access. So what WiMAX gives you slow speed, but then it's open.
Yes.
And for customers who wanted that, then that was the solution we gave to them.
Yeah.
But whether WiMAX is a long-term solution, I don't know.
Yeah, it remains to be seen in that sense. Going to the devices, what's the shape of the device pyramid? How many smartphones, how many feature-rich phones, and then what's the balance? How's that look?
Yeah, right at the top of the pyramid is the 3G handsets, and we've got about 500,000 3G handsets, because we spend a lot of time focusing on the entry-level products. So we've got the cheapest, the Woodman cheap products. We've got the cheapest handsets in order to crack that market, in order to bring more people in, because that's the biggest barrier. So we have about 500,000 3G handsets, and then we have about 5 million data-capable handsets, so GPRS or Edge, and that's delivering quite a good level of functionality.
Yeah.
Kids who want to access Facebook, Twitter, other social network, Google, Wikipedia, because it's not downloading big heavy files.
Yeah.
And it's rendered actually quite well, providing you can put Opera Mini. It actually renders well on those handsets. But our focus going forward certainly will be away from the 2G voice-only cheap handsets.
Yeah.
And the more feature-rich kind of product.
And what's your cheapest smartphone at the moment?
The cheapest, we actually launched it last week, which is the Huawei Ideas.
Yeah.
Which we brought in at about 8,500 shillings.
And what's that in dollars for our non-Kenyan
It's a little
viewers?
more, but okay, I can give you the comparison. In Europe, the same handset is at about 15,000. So it's nearly half price of what you pay in Europe.
Okay, and
we bundled. Sorry,
you bundled a lot with it.
Bundled that with kind of 600 megabytes.
Yeah.
Because you need to start to give people the experience.
Yeah, so they know what it is.
Yes. And it's the first Android phone at that sort of price.
Yeah. And what price do you think that smartphones will come down to from that price point? Is it the current
I've said before, and there's no scientific reason for this, but I've said that those smartphones really need to be down into the $40, $50 mark for it to really start to take
off.
Sense. Yeah.
And in the battle between Apple's phone, the Apple iPhone, the Android phones, and the BlackBerry, what do you think will happen in Africa? Because it's a very different market here.
It's a different market. I think Apple has the icon of it's an icon. Everybody's got one, but everybody knows the batteries only last for half a day. And the same actually with BlackBerry. I think Android.
Yes.
Android is the way to go.
Okay.
Because the Apple thing is just too proprietary, really.
Yes.
As is BlackBerry. And whilst we've seen quite a big uplift on BlackBerry in the past year or so, largely driven around BlackBerry Messenger.
Yes.
Because that's the key application of BlackBerry.
And it makes it much cheaper for people.
It makes it much cheaper, and it also recognizes the different communication style that young people have, and even older people. They don't have one conversation which lasts for 2 minutes and then it stops. They have a conversation which lasts throughout the day.
Yeah.
And it's interspersed with narrowcasting and broadcasting. You might want to tell all your 200 friends that you're feeling happy, and then you might just want to tell your boyfriend that you feel,
whatever you feel.
Whatever you feel.
Yes.
So that's a fundamental change.
Yeah.
In how young people communicate. I think that's what the market of BlackBerry tapped.
Yeah.
But other people will come into that space.
And in content terms, you were saying that you're doing the equivalent of a local record label. Yeah, speak a little about that.
Yes, we recognise that music is important to young people. And in terms of content consumption, compared to video, most kids wanted to have music and they wanted to have local music. So of course anybody could go buy Michael Jackson or the latest hitters. But here in Kenya, there are very few places for them to go access local
music.
And so we kind of killed a few birds with one stone. One is we brought the music to people. Secondly, to young people. Secondly, we created an environment for live music.
Yeah.
So live bands, and we'd run these gigs around the country. And then we'd have regional players also kind of take part. And then we developed the local talent.
Yeah.
So, we've got some well-respected, more senior players are still younger than me, but more senior players who will act as mentors, who will guide them. Then we put them through, mentorship, put them through voice training, and we put them through some business training. But importantly for these kids, not only do we provide a platform, but we provide money for them.
Yes.
So they can sell. We provide a platform of 18 million, 70 million customers to whom they can sell their music.
And get some money back in due course.
And get money back,
Yeah.
And, listen to music, they do ringtones,
Yeah.
they do voicemail, recorded message.
Yeah.
So those kids are beginning to earn, they're beginning to earn cash now.
Yeah.
And that's important for them.
I understand opening an app store is on your radar. Give me some idea of the timeline of that and the issues there are.
Difficult to say on the timeline, but it's inevitable that once you start to pump, things like the It phone out into the market, with Android application, the great thing about Android is that anybody can develop.
Yeah.
And if you start to do that, creating an eco-culture which gives a market for those developers, those local developers. Again, the great thing about this is that there are no boundaries. However, if you want local content, Apple is going to be no good for you.
Yeah.
So it provides local content. And the Kenyan market is one which does recognise and does value local content.
Bob, thank you very much for talking to me today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.